my God, we really get into some just unexplainable discussions
We're
on this
just
podcast.
unstoppable with the
We're
bullshit.
exactly. And you know what? I'm here for it. You know who else is here for it?
No.
Our listeners.
I looked around the room.
Yeah. Who else is here?
Yeah.
Where is everybody?
Yeah.
Welcome to the Accelerativ Thrust podcast, everybody. I'm Dan.
And I'm Erik. Oh, goddamn. The piece of shit glitch. All right. You want to try that again?
Sure.
It's going to do the same shit.
Okay.
Oh
let's try it. Welcome to the Accelerativ Thrust podcast. I'm Dan.
And I'm God damn it.
Is it doing a delay again?
No, it's just glitching.
All
right. One last try. Even if it glitches, fuck it.
All right.
Who cares?
Welcome to the Accelerativ Thrust podcast. I'm Dan.
And I'm Erik.
All right.
Wow.
And we got a lot to discuss today.
Yeah.
I think we're going to talk about two records today. Actually, I don't think I know.
Oh.
Love the I apologize. I want to take this time to if you guys are wondering why we did not have an episode for a week, once again, real life hit. And so we kind of took a break for a week. So we're back now. So we've actually had this episode planned out for 2 weeks now, Erik, or something like that?
Yeah, for a little while. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think the idea is sort of, I've been calling it the mutually assured destruction episode, but basically, basically both of us picked a record we think not only will we hate, but the other person will hate too. And then we force ourselves to listen to them and talk about them. That's the concept.
And for this is the thing. We generally, for the most part, I think it's sort of safe to say that our picks are generally a little more on the obscure side, for the most part. But to get us to pick records from like more popular bands, just get us to pick records that we think we'll hate.
Yeah.
And we'll do it.
That seems to be how it works. But,
exactly.
Yeah.
I have a lot to say about both picks.
Cool.
And so this is going to be interesting. We had 2 weeks to listen to this stuff. So
I did not listen to these records for 2 weeks.
No, I didn't either. But I'm just saying that's a for better or for worse scenario.
Yeah, right. We didn't get to watch out of our minds. We didn't get a palate cleanser between listening to this and recording this for 2 weeks. We just had this stuff resting in our brain.
It was just constantly there, man.
Yeah.
Constantly there. And there was no way we were going to run for it. And once we got in it, there was no way we were going to get out. We were in it for the long haul for 2 weeks anyway.
Yeah. Wow.
We honored the commitment, Erik.
We sure did. Well, we haven't talked about them yet. So that's actually the final step.
That's the final step.
Don't tell me we listen to this stuff and we're not going to finish the job.
Yeah, exactly.
Live with it.
Yeah, there's layers to this stuff. Layers to all of it.
Wow. Well, what's going on in the world before we get to these fools?
Yeah, we were just talking about, did you find any news? Yeah, I found an interesting thing here, actually. So apparently, now we're going to talk about the two news reports that we kind of discussed earlier, Erik, but I just found this and I think this is great.
Oh, snap. Okay.
Anti-metal pastor Bob Larson thinks Johnny Depp is possessed by pirate demons.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pirate demons.
Yeah. Bob Larson. Yeah.
That's the stuff we're talking about.
Yeah. I haven't heard that name in a while.
That's the stuff. You really know?
Yeah, I do know who Bob Larson is. I'm glad that he found a way to weasel his way back into the mainstream and get some acknowledgement. No, he used to have these famously bad interviews with Glenn Benton from d.i.y.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're really
good. It actually
references
that.
Yeah, everyone should listen to those. They both come off as dipshits, but they're really entertaining. So
wow, I'm gonna have to really dig into this. Bob, I love evangelists and self-proclaimed exorcists and pastors. Too. They're all great content creators. Who's the one guy that was he went to prison like for a little while, and he's a pastor. He's got this show where he's like selling these like end of the world food packs, these food buckets. Like they're just hilarious. They're like they'll do like these close-ups of like buckets full of like disgusting looking mac and cheese. And they're sitting there like talking like, oh yeah, this is the gourmet stuff. This is restaurant quality stuff. And like some guy will take a shovel, like literally a shovel, and shovel this like goop and oh, look at that. And like, oh, Jim Baker. Jim Baker. You know who Jim Baker is?
I do know Jim Baker. I mean,
Jim Baker,
not personally. Yes. I assume I'll meet him when I get to heaven.
Probably.
We can have a big bucket of mac and cheese.
There's a lot of people that are going to be meeting a lot of people in heaven.
And that's why we need all this food, these buckets of food. Catered by Jim Baker. Everyone will be so happy when he gets
I mean, there was like one where it was like enchiladas with rice from a bucket. He even had a Mexican family there eating it with like, and he was actually like saying stuff like, yeah, this is coming from a real Mexican person. Like, like it was.
They look like they come in kitty litter containers. So
they really do.
They should have had real cats eating the food.
So Bob Larson is also a pastor of the Spiritual Freedom Church in Phoenix. Yeah, he mentions this thing. He played a huge part in the satanic panic of the 80s, but he became famous for arguing with the stoned Glenn Benton of d.i.y. But his new fear is pirate demons, and according to Larson, they're real. And it's probably the cause of Johnny Depp's recent personal and legal troubles. Not Amber Heard or anything. It's not the accusations that are against him. It's pirate demons.
You know, if I were Johnny Depp and I would use this, I would be like, listen, I have it on good word from an expert that I'm not responsible for anything I've done because I'm possessed by pirate demons.
Pirate demons. Oh, dude. That's
gotta work.
This works to so many advantages for Johnny Depp.
Yeah. You know how like angels are the spirits of people who lived, right? Are demons the same thing? And if so these are like dead pirates?
Well, okay, hold on. I have an explanation for this.
Okay, thanks. Ooh.
So it says right here that in his latest POV rant, Bob makes it clear that pirate demons exist and he's exorcised them abroad. And that by playing Jack Sparrow in Disney's Pirates of the Caribbean, he invited them into his life. Wow. So what it is it's actors playing pirates in the spirits of the still living. That's by.
Is he possessed by evil barbers then as well? Or fake ass Robert Smiths with scissors on their hands? Is he possessed by all of these things?
Robert Smith.
Well, I mean, not to be rude.
So there's that.
Wow. And well, so what's gonna happen? What does Bob want to do about it? Or is he just letting us know?
I think he's just letting us know.
That's nice of him.
Done reading. I mean, I think it's really cool that like Bob is warning us about this.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been warning people about pirate demons for years. I'm really glad that a responsible dude is letting everyone know. Also, I'm not going to talk about it, but Daniel Radcliffe is playing Weird Al Yankovic.
That's pretty sweet.
It is, and he looks like he's going to do a great job.
I've always wondered about Weird Al. I've always wanted to know the truth, and we're never going to get that out of Weird Al because he is a character.
He is really the Andrew WK of the 80s.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, he's we don't get much from him about real life, and at the same time, I don't really care, but I kind of want to find some shit out, like dark stuff,
Yeah, like if he does have any dark stuff. It's hard to imagine.
Bad Al Yankovic.
I think it would be great if that's what the movie was. It was just like talking about how he was this like big drunk.
It's super dark.
Super dark. You thought you knew the guy who sang Fat.
Yeah. It's essentially just like that movie, The Machinist, except he has a long curly wig on. It's just like a Christian Bale, that era Batman movie.
Exactly. Like he talks like that.
I don't care what Coolio says.
Freaking the A&R guy who's like refuses to sign him is walking down the street. He like picks him up from the rooftop. He's all like, "Why have you not given me the contract? We're going to do this movie. It's going to be called UHF and you're going to like it, damn it."
Yeah. We're going to cast famous racist Michael Richards.
He's not known yet as that, but he will be. Trust me. We're going to make him drink from the fire hose for it.
This racist isn't even known as Kramer yet.
Weird Al, you can't just kick everybody out of your band 5 minutes before you're going to start. Watch me. And then he just like kicks them all like literally out of his room.
If I have my accordion, I don't need any other fucking people.
And Weird Al, if you're listening, please reveal all to us so we can get started.
Yeah. Let's get started.
So yeah, we picked an album apiece, and I'm actually going to wing it. I didn't take any notes because I really didn't have to on either.
I probably took the most I've ever done.
Really? That's great. So the record that I picked was the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Unlimited Love. And it just came out on April 1st, 2022. Now, I am going to say that I have not listened to a full Red Hot Chili Peppers album since Californication. That was the last one. I tried listening to at least a couple since then, and I have not been able to get myself through all of them. I do think, however, that some of the stuff that the Chili Peppers has done post Californication is pretty good. And I think some of it is just god awful. So I don't know. I guess what I'm going to do here is there's no way I can do a track by track here. I do think that this record is really bloated and really long, which is kind of to be expected. The Red Hot Chili Peppers, I'm going to start with kind of a history about the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I got to say, pertaining to me, my personal experience with the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I know I've mentioned this to Erik and may have even mentioned it on this show. I credit the Red Hot Chili Peppers in general, and specifically the album Blood Sugar Sex Magic. If you want to blame anybody for why I listen to music the way that I do, that is the answer right there. Blood Sugar Sex Magic. It is the transitional album for me that if I had never heard that record, I might still be listening to hair metal. And that, I guess there were a couple of sort of proto albums like that. For example, and the Anthrax albums, Among the Living and Persistence of Time, I would listen to along with Poison and Warrant and Motley Crue and stuff like that. And whatever kid-friendly rap I was listening to, DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, Criss Cross, stuff like that. But around 5th grade, my sister, who is 7 years older than me, so we're talking, this was about 1991, 1992, she got into this band called Jane's Addiction, and then also the Red Hot Chili Peppers. The first thing I heard from the Chili Peppers was Higher Ground, which I think is kind of a lot of people's introduction from my generation. Either that or, of course, Give It Away or Under the Bridge. But Higher Ground was the first thing I heard from them. And I don't know, something clicked with me when I heard some songs that were not on the radio off of Blood Sugar Sex Magic. And I actually stole the tape from my sister. Also, I was listening to things like Faith No More, The Real Thing by this time, and Ugly Kid Joe, As Ugly as They Want to Be, things like that. But the Chili Peppers made me really want to kind of, I guess, explore other styles of music besides just metal. Whereas I can't really credit Anthrax or even Faith No More at that time for wanting me to kind of get out of the genre of metal, because that's essentially what those bands, that's what they were affiliated with heavily at that time, you know? The Chili Peppers were just something I had never heard before at that time. So yeah, Blood Sugar Sex Magic, I still consider it a classic record. It's still my favorite record from the Chili Peppers. I don't really listen to it that much these days, but it definitely was a very important album to me. And same with One Hot Minute. And I would say even like pretty much the first, I don't know, I would say even Uplift Mofo Party Plan and Mother's Milk, you know, they became really big albums to me as well. But Blood Sugar Sex Magic is it. Something about where the Chili Peppers have ended up now, I kind of struggle with both absolutely hating it, but also I do have kind of this sort of respect for it, because while I do think that most of the songs on this record are boring, I still can say that whatever it is the Chili Peppers are doing are really good at what it is they do, which is kind of this, I don't know, like it's pop music. It's definitely like mainstream music, but it still exists in their own world. If that makes any sense. You can still definitely tell that it's Chili Peppers. And that's, I mean, honestly, that's something that I got to give credit where credit is due. So yeah, I mean, overall, I would say that this record for me would be like I don't know, if you're doing like a scale from, I don't know, let's just say 1 to 5, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best, I would put this at pretty much a 2 overall. Like I said, it really drags on. And I did struggle with trying to get through the whole thing. That being said, though, I will say that I really enjoyed a couple songs. One in particular is Aquatic Mouth Dance. I really like the horns that were added into it. And to be honest with you, I know that there are a couple of other songs that I kind of thought, okay, this is pretty good, but I can't really think of it right off the bat. But I know Aquatic Mouth Dance, that's track number 3. That's one that I really enjoyed. The opening track, which is also the first single, Black Summer, is horrible in my opinion. I'm sorry. I think that it also showcases something that maybe I didn't really realize until now, and that is Anthony Kiedis really isn't that great of a vocalist. However, he does fit whatever it is they do very well at the same time. The music is really good, regardless of what I think of the album. I will say that Flea is still an excellent bass player. You can definitely tell. John Frusciante, great guitar player. But yeah, overall, I would just say that this album is just not, it doesn't do it for me. And I don't have to listen to it again. And thank God for that. What did you think, Eric?
Well, since we're doing Chili Pepper histories, I'll tell you mine. I would say that the Chili Peppers also were an impactful band in my life, for real. I first saw the Chili Peppers in 1986 in a movie called Thrashin'. My friend Rusty and I watched it nonstop. That and the movie Rad, which was about BMXers. Thrashin' was about skateboarding, and there's a scene in it at a club, and they have this thing called the Thrash Bash, and I don't know what that means, but the announcer says, okay, and here's the Thrash Bash, and you can barely audibly hear him say Red Hot Chili Peppers after that. But I literally thought the name of the band was the Thrash Bash. So that's how stupid I was. And they play a song called Black Eyed Blonde, which is really almost non-musical. Right. And I feel that way about some of the early Chili Pepper stuff, like especially just the self-titled. By the time they got to Freaky Styley, I think they were adding a lot more in, and they were exploring sort of the funk that led to what they do, which I think is great. Anyway, so the beginning of my experience with them, I have the wrong band name completely, and I've only heard one song, so that's not great. But not long after that, actually probably a couple of years, I was watching MTV Weekend Rock, and they did a little spotlight on the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And it's really good if you can see the footage. Like they're just little babies, and they're so cute, and they have no sense of what they're going to become. Like they just think this is all for fun, and it was.
On a side note, Flea looked really odd when he was younger. Like
yeah, he's in one of my other favorite movies from when I was a kid called Suburbia.
Suburbia.
And Dudes. Both of those are directed by Penelope Spheris, who made the Decline movies. But yeah, so then I'm like, oh shit, that's the Red Hot Chili Peppers. That's the band from Thrashin'. Like, that's how shit used to work before the internet. Like, you would just see something and be like, dang, I wish I had a way to know more about that. And you just wouldn't until something else came along or somebody else mentioned it, and you're like, oh shit, that's that thing. So that was kind of my introduction. And so I would say that would put me at sort of like Uplift Mofo Party Plan might have been the first thing I heard.
Sure.
And especially like, Fight Like a Brave. I just think that's amazing.
That's such a great song.
Yeah, but it was definitely Mother's Milk for me was the album where I was like, oh shit, this is a cool, amazing band. And they are doing something totally different than the other stuff I've heard, except maybe Jane's Addiction.
Right.
So I hold them in very high regards. I liked the funk stuff. I liked when they sort of moved away from that a little bit with Mother's Milk and Blood Sugar. I mean, there's still funk, obviously.
Sure.
But it's not just that straight funk. Like first record, I mean, it's just nonstop. It's not like you get to chill out and go, wow, they're actually really good musicians. Anyway, so I love them. And I started to sort of fall out of favor, or they fell out of favor with me at one hot minute, which I think happens with most people. But then also Californication, I didn't get into. I just thought it was too much. Like you just made a whole record of Under the Bridges. That's kind of how it felt. And I know that's inaccurate. But
no, well, actually, I think that's honestly, I think that's a fair description. And in a way, sorry to interrupt.
Not at all.
But I just wanted to interject here. I think that's actually a pretty fair description, because that is essentially kind of what the direction they've gone in general these days. But I think, in my personal opinion, Californication is the only album that worked with.
Yeah. And so, I wasn't that into Californication, but by the way, I really enjoyed like a lot. I felt like they were influenced by different things, like the Velvet Underground or
absolutely
Elvis Costello. Even a lot of interesting stuff happens. Stadium Arcadium, everyone told me to listen to. I didn't. I'm With You, I didn't hear that much. The Getaway, I don't even know. I don't even know if I met someone who has listened to that in my life. But anyway, back to what we're talking about, which was Unlimited Love.
Sure.
I thought it was just amazingly boring.
Yeah.
I mean,
same
I
here.
just thought it was, again, kind of like Californication, where I felt like they just made a whole record of Under the Bridges. I feel like this is sort of like just a whole record of scar tissues,
Yeah.
and they try some stuff, and every once in a while it is kind of good and kind of cool.
Mhm.
But most of the time it's just like, holy shit, this is boring. And
Yeah.
it's almost like it was made for people that identify as Red Hot Chili Peppers fans,
Mhm.
which is a big deal. I think
Mhm.
it's a demographic at this point almost.
Mhm.
But I think it was sort of made to be put on in the background and ignored.
Yeah.
And for as long as possible.
Yeah.
Like so long that you don't have to think about it. It's like, hey man, it's Friday night, just got off work. I'm gonna slam some beers or whatever, put on some music. I don't want to think about anything for over a fucking hour, you know?
Right.
And like just something in the background that if I do notice it, I can be like, oh man, Flea's fucking cool. Like,
Yeah.
like it doesn't really serve any musical purpose, is how it felt. I want to take a moment here to say when we came up with this idea, I liked the fact that we picked people that I considered to be bulletproof. And you'll see who, the next pick, you'll be like, yeah,
Sure.
they're bulletproof. But
Sure.
I also realized I didn't just want to lay into people because that'd be so easy.
Sure.
Like, and part of me felt like sort of like the floodgates opened because we're usually super nice about our reviews. I feel like we try to find the good in things. And this episode is predicated on the idea that this stuff sucks already.
Yeah.
And so that made it almost too easy. It was like, well, this guy sucks and that thing sucks. But I mean, the fact of the matter is they wrote it, they recorded it, they put it out, which is a hell of a lot more than I usually do or have done in a while.
Right.
So I can't be too down on it, but
exactly.
This could have been half as long and it would have been a kind of good record if they had picked the right songs. I'd say there's easily 10 songs on this that are good that you would be like, wow, the Chili Peppers are really trying some shit out. But in the midst of 17 songs that all sound exactly alike, and like you said, they're all really good musicians. Like Flea is an amazing bass player, like really. And I'm not talking about his technique. I'm talking about his ear, the melodies that he plays against like the vocal melody and what's happening in the song. It's truly amazing. I think that he's a hell of a musician. And I think
Frusciante too, man.
I think Frusciante's cool. I think that he's a little stuck maybe on this Hendrix wing sound, but whatever. I mean, that's kind of his sound now. So it's, he has to do it. But yeah, overall, I just think it was really boring. And I think it was made for people that identify as Chili Peppers fans, but really have no interest in the music part of that.
Right.
That sounds shitty to say, but I really think it's true. It's like,
no, I think
let's put this on in the garage while we work on something and not think about it,
Yeah.
Some of the songs do get sort of cool, and this is something that I'll mention about the next pick too. They're all kind of tacked on at the end. And if you have made it through the first 48 minutes of this, then it's kind of too late. You know what I mean? Like, you're not at the end going to be like, oh, wow, yeah, they saved the best for last. You'll be like, what? Why didn't you start with this? Overall, though, I would say that I'm not going to listen to this again.
Sure.
And that's just because I was just bored by it. I don't know. I feel like, it's funny how similar the picks we made are, because I'm going to talk about sort of the same shit with my pick. So overall, super boring. I don't think they are trying to break new ground. I think they're purposely trying not to.
Exactly.
That's terrible. That's as bad as it gets. I also have to throw out there that I kind of think how it went down with Josh Klinghoffer leaving the band is pretty shitty. Personally.
What happened?
Well, he played with them for like, I don't even know, 10, 15 years, a dozen years.
Sure.
And then John Frusciante wanted to come back and they said, sorry, Josh, you're out of the band. John wants to come back.
Wait, hold on. 10, 15 years?
Yeah, a long ass time.
Really?
From 2009 to 2019.
So 10 years, yeah.
Yeah.
And they
he's
just kind of said, John.
Yeah. They're just like, Josh, sorry, John wants to come back. So you're done. Whatever. I know they're friends with John Frusciante, and maybe they didn't consider themselves friends with him.
And they might have also made it clear to Josh that
this
hey,
is a temp thing.
That this might be a temporary thing. If John gets himself clean, he might be back in the band. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like maybe that happened. Maybe it didn't. I don't know.
And that's their business. But I don't know. Just a side note, I was kind of like, dang.
Yeah.
Thanks for putting the time in, but you're out. So
thank you, Jason Newsted.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Speaking of Jason Newsted.
Yeah. Speaking of Jason Newsted. Did he play on this record? Okay, no, I might as well introduce the record here. Okay, it is called Lulu, and it is a famously bad album. Mm-hmm. It was made by Lou Reed and Metallica. I adore Lou Reed. I'm not going to go into my history with Lou Reed or Metallica because I feel it's been covered on this show probably at some point before. But yeah, this record, okay, the way I understand it is Lou and Metallica met. They played a show together. They had a good time. They said, hey, we should do something together like musicians always do. But they actually did it. Basically, Lou had written some spoken word type pieces, sort of like a play or something like that. It was something intellectual that was above my head, and this record didn't inspire me to actually look into it. So
right,
that's the truth of the matter.
Right. Was it a play that Lou Reed wrote or something like that?
That he was working on. Yeah. I don't know how to feel about this record. The first song comes on and it is trash. It's like every bad decision that could have happened did happen. I don't even know where to start with this. So in my opinion, this should have been a slam dunk. It really should have been. Metallica does what they do and they do it well. There's varying opinions about that, when they became not good at what they do, whatever. Mm-hmm. But they honestly could have just played some instrumental thrash under Lou Reed doing spoken word, and it would have been sick. It really would have. There's a song on here called Mistress Dread, which is about the best example of what that could have sounded like. Mm-hmm. It's pretty cool. Like, I would have been into it. It's easy to go, that's Metallica and that's Lou Reed, and it sounds pretty good, and I get it. Awesome. The problem that I had with this, though, is that Metallica, they can't do this kind of stuff. Like, they're too Metallica for what they're trying to pull off here. And what I mean is, this is like a spoken word record. It has a certain element of calmness that has to come with that. And Metallica just can't really reach it. Like, every drum hit is Lars beating the fuck out of his drum set every time. Every snare is, I mean, it's just crazy. Every guitar is distorted and screaming thrash stuff, and that's fine. But even James's vocals, when he's trying to sound experimental or interesting or artistic, it's still, it's like, why are you doing that? I don't know. Metallica is really great at the one thing, and it seems like they went out of their way to avoid doing that one thing that they do really well. And because of that, it could have just been any boring ass hard rock band behind Lou Reed. Lou Reed could have just got session players, as far as I'm concerned. I just feel like Metallica's imposter syndrome should have kicked in, and they should have been like, I don't actually know if we have the chops for this. They're great musicians at what they do, but I just don't think it really transfers to this kind of thing. Lou's performance, I think, is fine. I think we've been listening to him talk about uncomfortable things and do it in a spoken word, half singing, half talking sort of way. We've been listening to him do that since like Street Hassle, which is really what Lou's performance is very much like the track Street Hassle from Street Hassle. But yeah, James's voice does not work with that, and he shouldn't be singing along with Lou. I think for me, that was the most cringeworthy part of the whole record, is when, I don't even want to say they tried to sing together, when James tried to sing with Lou. Again, the biggest issue I had with this, though, is the length. It was just outrageously long. Yeah, no, an hour and 27 minutes.
Yeah, it's 87 minutes and 5 seconds long,
which is psychotic.
That is very psychotic.
But
it is considered a double album, though, to be kind of fair.
Okay. Well, okay. So again, though, my big problem is they could have cut this down. They could have concentrated on the things that were working. Mm-hmm. And they could have had a cool record. And it's weird the way that it's done, because it's almost like they knew that. Mm-hmm. It's almost like they made the first part of this, the first half, I guess, since it's a double record, the first half they made thinking, we got to sell some records. We got to have, this is going to get on the radio. We got to, make stuff that's accessible and good and sounds like Metallica and has James singing on it a lot and stuff. That part did not do a single thing for me. Starting with the song Cheat on Me, which comes in at 11 and a half minutes, we start to get really experimental, actually. And like I said, sometimes Metallica doesn't have the chops to pull off that experimentation, but sometimes they do. And it gets real weird. And I can see why people are like, this sucks. But for me, that suckiness at least was taking some chances. Like, at least they were like, hey, this is kind of fucked up. We're Metallica and we're making a record with Lou Reed. Like, let's get weird. But that doesn't kick in for the first 45 minutes, Mm-hmm. And so if they would have cut this in half, done a 4 or 5 song release, it would have come in an hour, probably. But it would have solidified kind of what I think their intentions were from the beginning. I think they got sidetracked by thinking, wow, people might really like this and think it's good. We should explore that idea and follow through with trying to make a good record, which I think they should have just made a weird record. It would have done more for me anyway. I would have been like, yeah, that's a cool way to go, guys. And I could have got into that, but instead I feel like they tried to have a popular album too, and that just wasn't going to happen. So anyway, that's my rant. What do you think, Dan?
Well, I don't have a history with Lou Reed. Mm-hmm. I kind of talked about that a couple episodes back, and you almost slit my throat over
it. Can't be true.
No,
I'm in a whole nother city.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But I think you were trying to come through the speakers to strangle me, at least. What I said, I think, was something to the effect of, I'm just not really into the Velvet Underground. Mm-hmm. That does not mean that I don't like the Velvet Underground. That just means that I don't know enough about them to have an opinion. And so I actually did kind of listen to a little bit of Velvet Underground and Nico in preparation for listening to this again, because I've already heard this album years ago when it first came out. I just didn't remember a thing about it. I do want to something kind of crazy. Both Dale Crover and Buzz Osborne have both stated this is the best album Metallica has ever made.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is insane to me.
Yeah.
But it also kind of makes sense a little bit considering who the Melvins are in a weird sort of way. It doesn't surprise me that much either at the same time. Mm-hmm. So anyway, here's the thing. As far as Metallica goes, I am I can't even say the minority, But when you were talking about there's different opinions as to when Metallica became bad or whatever.
Right.
I don't really think Metallica ever became bad. I just think that they made some really, really bad albums. In particular, Saint Anger, in my opinion, is just unforgivable, save for a couple of songs. I am actually a defender of Load and Reload if they were one album.
Oh,
if they were one album, I think that it would have been a really, and I still think that some of the songs on that are actually really killer. And I may get crucified for that. I don't know.
Do you mean edited down to one or combined? Because it looks like
no,
about an hour.
Edited down to one. Because what I think is, I think that some of like Load, the first Load, I like way better than I like Reload. To me, Reload sounded like a couple of really good songs, but a bunch of filler and leftovers from Load, and it became very obvious to me, and this is just an opinion, that that's what that was. I think they could have taken the best songs from both albums and made it one album, and it would have been fantastic. And I still think Load is a really good heavy rock record. I defend those albums all the time because I don't think those are nearly as bad as a lot of people shit on them for. However, Saint Anger is every bit as bad as everyone says. That one I do think is unforgivable. And then, I don't know, the stuff they've come out with recently is okay. But I mean, at the end of the day, the first 4 albums is always going to be my favorite stuff. Sure. I've recently became very, very into Kill 'Em All. Like Kill 'Em All is maybe my new favorite Metallica album, actually.
It's pretty cool.
I love it. But I don't know. It's either that or Ride the Lightning or Master of Puppets. Sure. I don't know.
I think James's voice on Kill 'Em All is amazing.
It is. It's absolutely incredible. You can tell that they were so young and so angry.
And it comes through. Like, it feels like punk rock.
It really does.
And that's amazing.
And you can tell that they were into everything from Discharge to the Misfits and Venom, all that stuff comes through at that time. But anyway, aside from all that, despite the fact that I am not too familiar with Velvet Underground and Lou Reed, I've always had tremendous respect for the man. I know he came out with the Metal Machine music. And the album Transformer is actually the most that I know from him. And I do really like that album.
Yeah,
I think
amazing.
It's a fantastic record. So I've always had tremendous respect for Lou Reed. I agree with you on what you said, that this should have totally been an amazing record. And I think this is my view of it. It's a little bit different than yours, Eric. I actually, when I was listening to the first, I don't know, up until Iced Honey, the first 5 songs, my view was kind of like, okay, so this isn't necessarily the greatest thing I've heard, but I don't see why everybody is, I don't see how it's so bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I actually think that this is kind of cool. You mentioned Mistress Dread. I was like, this is actually pretty damn cool. Yeah. Like, I really enjoy this. This almost sounds like, it's almost getting to territory that almost sounds like a more mainstream version of what the Melvins did with like their collaboration with Lustmord, only not as noisy. Just, you know what I mean? Like, you can definitely tell that better production and whatever, or just different production. I shouldn't say better, because the Melvins production is amazing too. But anyway, like The View, I thought was kind of a cool song. Brandenburg Gate, the opening track, I don't think it was as trash as you thought, Eric, but I definitely don't think it was one of the strongest tracks. I do think that James Hetfield's odd vocals on that was just like, that's what killed it for me.
Right. For me too. It wouldn't be trash without those vocals. For
exactly. Me. Like Small Town Girl, or whatever it is. that he's saying. I don't know.
Sorry
It's
to
like he's
interrupt, but yeah. It's the funny thing is Lou Reed's voice when he does a hard voice sounds just like that anyway.
Yeah, it really does.
Like there's moments in this record where I'm like, I actually don't know if that's Lou Reed or James Hetfield.
Yeah,
and that's kind of fucked up. You know?
I almost think that James Hetfield was on that song. It almost sounded like he was trying to be a metal version of Bruce Springsteen or something. Yeah, right. Like it was just really like, what are you doing here? Mm-hmm. But I thought The View, Pumping Blood, Mistress Dread, Iced Honey, those were all kind of interesting. Mm-hmm. Then all of a sudden, like you said, it takes a turn and becomes a very, very weird. Mm-hmm. And like to the point where they're kind of, yeah, like I see what you were saying about it, Eric. They're trying to get something kind of experimental out of it, but it just never quite gets there.
Right.
And I think part of that, and actually a big portion of it, is because of the length of the songs. Mm-hmm. By the time you get done with the first like 6 minutes of the 19-minute song Junior Dad, the last one, you're just like, when is this going to be over? Like for real. And it's really like, we've listened to some really challenging music and lengthy music on this podcast before, Eric.
Yeah, for sure.
And so 19 minutes and 30 seconds, it really isn't, the length shouldn't be a big deal, but with this, it really was. Even more so with the Chili Peppers. Well, not even more so, but also with the Chili Peppers album. Mm-hmm. So yeah, those are issues with both of the picks today.
For sure.
I think my overall consensus with this album is I don't think it's as bad as a lot of like my friends have said that it is. Mm-hmm. But it's weird though. I can honestly say with confidence, I will never listen to that Chili Peppers album again.
Right.
I might put this one on like in a year, just out of curiosity purposes.
Right. Yeah. I feel the same way.
Just kind of like, okay, is there something I'm missing here? Because regardless of the fact that it's not the slam dunk that it should be, I do think that it's still an interesting, risky move for Metallica to do something like this. Mm-hmm. You'll never see Slayer do this. You'll never see Megadeth do this, and you'll never see Anthrax do this.
Right.
And so out of the big four, I got to say that because of this album alone, Metallica might be the most experimental of the big four.
Sure.
And that's really interesting to me.
And that's the thing that I came away from this episode thinking was the Lulu album. There's a lot of misses. There's a lot of missed opportunity. There's a lot of things that just straight up didn't work. And with all the people involved, they should have known it wasn't working.
Absolutely.
It was a little forced, but it is, at least they tried some weird shit. At least they tried something new. At least they had a strange idea and followed through with it.
Yep.
And regardless of if it was going to be popular or hated or affect their legacy, which I think it probably has to an extent, but at least it's not boring. The Chili Peppers, as far as I could tell with Unlimited Love, tried not to take it. Like went out of their way to remove any risk.
Yep.
And so, yeah, maybe the Chili Peppers record is more accessible, but it's pointless.
Yeah.
Like the Lou Reed one and Metallica at least makes you go, what were they thinking? I must be missing something. I'm going to listen to this again. It makes you, it causes a reaction.
The other thing about it too is that at the end of the day, it's almost like the Lulu album is more effective because you can guarantee that if the Chili Peppers ever decide to put out another album in another 8 years or whatever, everyone's going to be like, oh, I didn't even know they were still a band. Oh, I didn't even know. But with Lulu, I guarantee that somewhere down the line, if there hasn't been already, there's going to be like articles where it's like revisiting Lulu.
Oh, hell yeah.
Interesting because what this album, it keeps us talking. Like, you know, here we are. I don't know. When did this come out? Like,
11 years ago.
Yeah. 11 years ago. And here we are, we're still picking it.
Right.
Like as like an album that oh yeah, this is probably going to be an album that we absolutely hate. You know what I mean?
And I honestly, I don't think either of us, from what I heard you say and what I meant to say, I don't think either of us walked away from this being like, that's pointless bullshit.
Yeah, no, not at all. I actually think it's
Yeah.
a very effective album. I think, honestly, if you want to know the truth, if Metallica and Lou Reed were looking to somewhat puzzle people, I mean, mission accomplished.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I wish they would have just mixed up the tracks. I wish it wasn't half and half, because I think that would have been way more effective. Personally.
Yeah, I think this album could have benefited from not being a double album. And I think some of the tracks could have benefited from not being as long as they were, maybe half the length.
Yeah, I mean, if they really wanted to make an impact, and I know this wasn't the style in 2011, but this should have been a 4 or 5 song EP. You know?
Absolutely.
And if one of those songs is 10 to 20 minutes long, like, that's okay. It would have really confused people, and they would have been like, why did they do this? You know, instead of why did they do this, which is kind of the reaction.
Yeah. Well, do we have any shows?
Oh shit. The shows. Let's take a look. I forgot all about it. Let's see. What month is it now? It is May. Okay. So the first show is Wednesday, the 11th. It is at the Gas Lamp. It's Hans Gruber and the Diehards. I don't know them, but fun name. Americature, Big B Woods, and More Cheese. That's the 11th at the Gas Lamp. The 13th, we have at Gabe's Oasis, Noel Stolp, who is in Rational Anthem, if you're familiar with them. Will Hancock and Chris Anders. I think this is going to be more of like a kind of singer-songwriter acoustic kind of thing. It's an earlier show at 7. That's Friday. Then we have at the Raccoon Motel, Friday the 13th again, the Central, Everlasting Light, and House of Animals. And then we have a kind of a banger here in Iowa City. It's the first real show that they're going to put on at the new PS1 location, which is a mansion, big old mansion. It's going to be Shroud. They're from Springfield, Illinois, hardcore. Public Opinion from Colorado. Bovinophobic Bile Puddle. I don't know. I'm sure I did not say that right. It says Local City High Punkers. Cool. So that's cool. And then Pest House, which is a new Iowa City hardcore, like real brutal hardcore, kind of like throwdown stuff, I believe was the description that Dolly gave me. I think Dolly and from PSYOP and Joe from Dryad are in that. So that should be cool. Saturday the 14th at Gabe's Oasis, we have the Good Habits record release show for Full Grown, which we actually reviewed on this podcast. So it's going to be the release for that. It's going to be with Younger, who are very cool. And I believe Jeff Mannix from Good Habits, I believe his sister Sarah plays in Younger. So that's
okay.
Maze is also going to play. So that should be a super fun show. That's really all I have before the next show is going to come out, but that is still some really cool stuff. So
yeah, that sounds really cool. The Central is an amazing band.
Oh yeah, awesome.
They are. I don't know if you've ever dug into them at all, Eric.
No, I haven't.
But sounds like all that stuff is going to be really awesome. So you say Pest House?
Pest House.
That's a new band with Dolly and members from Dryad, huh?
Yeah. I don't know who else is in it, but yeah, Dolly's description of it was that it was going to be sort of classic, like real moshy shit. So I haven't seen anything like that in a while, so we'll see.
Cool. Well, if it's anything like the moshy shit that I like, then it'll be like Limp Bizkit.
Oh, I don't know for sure. Maybe.
I'm just kidding. I'm not even into
I'm
Limp
gonna say
Bizkit that much
probably
anymore.
not, but yeah, I don't know. Only
No,
one way to find out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You might be going to you might be hearing Dolly rap.
Maybe. I've never that's one thing I've never heard. So that's exciting.
Yeah, no, yeah, I really doubt that's going to be the situation, but
probably not.
there's only one way to find out.
Go to the damn show.
Go to the show.
Just
Yeah.
go to the damn show.
Go to the show. Go to the show. A couple of old guys yelling at young people to go to the show. Go to the show.
Just get out of your dang house and go to the show.
Goddamn whippers. We should start doing this podcast in the old man voices.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well,
welcome to the Accelerativ Thrust. We are here. We're going to tell you about music, and you're going to love it, you whippersnappers.
Yeah. What do you mean you never heard that before? What are you, stupid?
Yeah.
Go get some suicidal tendencies, you little dork.
Yeah. I had to walk 6 miles to Co-op Records to buy that suicidal EP.
We used to have these things called malls.
Yeah.
And now you don't even have anything. You get everything online.
You won't even take the time to download it, you piece of shit.
Okay, bye, guys. Thank you for listening. You all have a great week.
Whoa, is that really the end?
No, I don't think so, but it can be.
Yeah, cool with it. Bye.
No, but for real though. Thank you all for listening. As always, peace out.
Bye. That was so anticlimactic.